everybody. Welcome to this week's episode of Seen But Not Heard, where we'll feature music from Thwart, Thrallfrost, and have a little interview with Kyle Thomas from such bands as Trouble, Alabama Thunder Pussy, and the mighty Exhorder. We'll get to that in a bit. First, music from Thwart. This is a band from Berlin, Germany, whose their manager I interviewed previously on this show, Scott Ames. He's sending me a bunch of cool bands to check out, so hope you all enjoy it. This is Thwart with No Way Out. Hey there, everybody. I'm here with Kyle Thomas from such bands as Exhorder, Floodgate, Alabama Thunderpussy, and Trouble. How you doing, buddy?
I'm doing well. How's it going over there?
Good, man. How are you enjoying the nice New Orleans weather as we're stuck here in negative 18 degrees here in Fargo?
Well, it's been up and down for us. We've got a front coming through right now. It's going to be passing through the next few days. We basically bounce from 70 degrees and beautiful blue skies to, upper 30s, low 40s, and then back. It's a recipe for illness, that's for sure. But it's foggy. It's foggy as can be right now. It looks like a dreary European day right now.
That's what we call a North Dakota summer right there.
Right. I can only imagine.
Well, my friend, first things first, the rebirth of Exhorder. So, you released a new album in 2019, and you started in, 1990 was when Slaughter of the Vatican came out?
Yeah, we had actually, the band formed in 1986, and we recorded the Get Rude demo that year, and then over the next 2 years, we started constructing what eventually became Slaughter in the Vatican, and did a demo version of that we actually intended to be the album. But by the time we had signed our record deal and RC took over the contract that we did with Mean Machine Records that never did actually happen, it was Road Racer at the time, RC. It was their desire for us to start from scratch and re-record all over again. But that's how far back the earliest versions of some of those songs go back to late 1985, early 1986.
Damn, dude. I remember I was 13 or 14 years old, and me and my buddy were listening to a bunch of King Diamond albums, and his older brother came with the Slaughter in the Vatican tape. So I was just a pup, and he popped that in, and that fucking album just kicked my ass. I mean, just been following you guys since, and just the I don't want to use the word progress because everything's amazing that you do, but just the versatile styles of Exhorder, Trouble, Alabama Thunderpussy, Floodgate. Let's talk about that for a second. When I was 15 years old, a couple years later, my bass player showed up with that album. He's like, "Hey, dude, it's Kyle from Exhorder." I'm like, "No shit." And we popped that in, listened to it, and was like, "Man, I mean, you just have such a versatile voice to do so many different genres of metal, you know? It's really cool." So what I'm getting at here is, what is your motivation or your inspiration to do all these different styles?
The funny thing is when I first put Floodgate together with my brother Kevin, we both learned how to play bass and guitar at the same time. We took lessons together, and so literally I was taking bass at the time when we were teenagers, and he was taking guitar, and we would literally just split a 30-minute lesson. Each kid got 15 minutes, but what we would do is each guy would pay attention to what the other guy's lesson was doing. So we were both getting the lesson for each other's instruments, and we'd go home and just trade off on instruments, and that's how that kind of started. But it's funny that in the beginning of Floodgate, people were like, "Wow, that's really a departure for Kyle. It's so different for Kyle." And the funny thing is it's actually more along the lines of what I grew up listening to begin with. So it was more of a return to roots for me.
Okay.
Than the departure. I would say that the departure for me was probably Exhorder, because at the time it was new territory for me. I had been a metalhead since I was 12, 13 years old, and I was 16 when I joined Exhorder. So really punk rock was really like a new thing in my life at that time, and I couldn't get enough of it. And the crossover of metal and punk was just like a volatile combination and resonated deeply within me.
Okay.
To be honest with you, after the Exhorder years, I really didn't listen to a whole lot of thrash metal. And it's kind of funny, like people today, they like send me all these YouTube links, like check this out, and I'm like, I'm listening to Humble Pie or like UFO, or some like funk, I mean, and I just don't listen to that much heavy metal in my free time anymore. I still enjoy it from time to time, but it's kind of like my wife jokes, she's like, the carpenter's wife has no furniture, so it's like, when I'm hanging out on my own, I don't, especially on tour, man. You get on a tour bus with most every band that people like Obituary, Testament, Overkill. Like these people, 9 times out of 10 are not listening to heavy metal on their tour bus late at night. It's like, a chef goes home and probably orders out because he's tired of cooking all day, or she,
Oh, I get it, man. I mean, I have my go-tos for relaxing music because, writing extreme metal, because I do like black metal, thrash metal, like just a wide variety of stuff. But yet, I'll pop in like B-52s or John Parr, something like that.
Yes, indeed.
You can't be aggressive all the time, but I mean, and stuff like that even gives me inspiration to want to write heavier stuff, even though I love the soft rock as well, but my heart will always be writing heavier music.
The old legend has it that Ronnie James Dio drew the inspiration to write the lyrics to Holy Diver while watching a basketball playoff game for NBA.
I've never heard that before.
I mean, art imitates life, I think. So, like for me, especially right now, being in a writing phase, because I'm in the middle of writing 3 albums right now, one for Exhorder, one for Trouble, and I'm also writing a solo album. Nice. So what I try to, if I'm listening to music, I try to listen to as little music that's along the lines of what I'm writing as possible, because I don't want any outside influence bleeding in. Especially not, someone else's work. The last thing I ever would want to be is a plagiarist, for starters. We always tend to draw off of our own influences from time to time, and every once in a while you have a part that's like, God, that's so awesome. I can't believe I wrote that. And then, well, that's why I wrote it, because it's on Master of Reality by Black Sabbath. And if you have to throw it out, it's either throw it out or be a blatant ripoff. And I don't ever want to be a blatant ripoff. I mean, I'm sure from time to time I've had things that sound similar to other things, but you try not to.
Exactly. So back in the starting point of Exhorder, as you said, you know that wasn't really kind of your go-to music. How did that become where it's like, hey, I'm gonna, this band is what I'm gonna go for? Just being young and full of rage, or
the angry young man factor of heavy metal and punk rock. Not even necessarily young man, just angry young person. It spoke volumes to me at the time. I was raised in Catholic schooling. I had begun to grow disenchanted with the hypocrisy of organized religion in general. And, a lot of people thought that Slaughter in Vatican was simply a personal attack on Catholicism. It's really not. It's just a metaphor for all organized religion and the exploitation of it by the hierarchies in charge of said religions. It can be any religion. I mean, look at the televangelists. I mean, they've made fortunes off of the goodwill of people, and I don't know. What I always thought by reading scripture in school was that these people would probably hate Christ, because here was a guy who lived in the streets with the worst of the worst people by society's standards. And, and so much so that they ended up killing the poor guy. And all he was trying to do was tell everybody to treat each other nicely. So I don't know. I think at the end of the day, it's just another business. It's, it's a reason for people to be drunk on power and riches, and
yeah,
it's unfortunate.
And it's kind of funny you mentioned Catholic school, because I did 7 years of that as well, and it's
so
no, exactly, 100%. And it's kind of funny how this ties in, because I started playing guitar when I was 7 due to Def Leppard. That was the first heavy metal band I heard. And then it went to Metallica, and then my buddies and his older brothers would show me stuff. And like I said, when I was about 13, 14 years old, I had never heard anything like Slaughter at the Vatican. That was it changed my views on wow, music gets heavier and heavier. And then you helped push me to heavier music. So, I mean, it went from Def Leppard to now listening to shit like, Morbid Angel, Impaled Nazarene, Exhorder, fucking Overkill. I love it all. I mean, there's not a genre of metal I don't enjoy, but being raised Catholic as well, I wasn't able to, discover that stuff. And also there wasn't internet back then, so it was all, tape trading and shit like that. And I fucking miss those days so much, man. Those are the best ways.
It was a lot more organic, for sure. It was very organic back then.
Exactly. It was so fucking cool. So you guys stopped doing Exhorder in the early 90s, and then Floodgate. And after Floodgate, it was on to, help me with the timeline here, because there's so much you've done.
Yeah. There's a lot more to the story than usually gets listed on biographies that Encyclopedia, Metallium, etc., those kind of websites.
Yeah.
What happened was, it seemed like things were really, really going to happen for Floodgate. While we were on Roadrunner, we did an arena tour with Sepultura on the Roots tour as direct support. So we were really getting set up. Our booking agent wanted us back in the UK and back in the mainland in Europe, supporting Tool and Korn, and then doing headlining tours. And for whatever reason, our label grew disenchanted with us. I think at that time, nu metal was really on the rise.
Yep.
And they had some up and coming bands. And I don't know, that's one thing about Roadrunner back in the day that I always was cautious about, was they really were whatever was the newer thing, they kind of just quickly went to it and lost it. I mean, dude, they dropped me twice. They dropped Exhorder and they dropped Floodgate. So I don't know. It's funny because to this day, there's articles all over, people hailing that Floodgate Penalty album as one of the most grossly underappreciated albums of the 90s, next to, Metallica, Red Hot Chili Peppers, all these other bands that had albums that came out during that time that were albums within their discographies that just didn't, I guess, speak to the masses the way that the other ones did. But it's nice. The accolades are nice to hear people come back later and that the album has aged well, and that so many people have said, this was an inspiration. This was, pretty cutting edge for the time. It doesn't sit well with me thinking back on what could have been, because we were just right there with Floodgate. But after, and we never did even really break up either. We just kind of stopped. It was, I want to say, we were recording our follow-up album on our own. We were just let's just write the album and get it ready to go, and then we'll figure it out as it comes. And I guess late 90s, I just got frustrated and ended up settling down and starting a family, having children. And then, once that comes into play, the whole game changes. And I was okay with it, because that's what I've always wanted to do before. That was my major dream in life, was to be a parent, to be a father, and raise my kids. So when they were little, I couldn't really do the touring anyway, but I still, you try to walk away from music and it always comes back to you, and it finds you. It's weird. So I did a project called Pits versus Preps with a few friends of mine from here in New Orleans, and that was more like Iron Maiden, Judas Priest inspired heavy metal.
Okay.
And then I did an album called Jones's Lounge with a couple of friends, Jimmy Bauer included. He played drums on that, and I played some guitar and mostly sang. But that was actually engineered at Balance Studios with Dave Fortman sitting on the console. So we really like made a good sounding record and just released them both on our own. And they've kind of become cult favorites in some circles, I think. But we just never did proper releases for those.
Yeah.
Fast forward to Hurricane Katrina. At that point, I was in a failing marriage, kind of hopping around with 2 children, just by myself, wondering where my life's going. And within the next year after that, I had an opportunity to work with the Alabama Thunder Pussy crew, and we eventually ended up doing some touring and recording and releasing the Open Fire album, and that really, really got things going again. I do have to rewind a little bit, though, before I go any further. Got Joey Jordison of Slipknot invited me to do the song that became Constitution Down on the Roadrunner United album, and that really kind of put me back on the map as far as being a legitimate, viable option in heavy rock and roll. So that was before the Alabama Thunder Pussy thing, but really joining Alabama Thunder Pussy, and I had never toured that hard in my life. These guys were already a well-oiled machine before I got there, and so we just beat the road down ruthlessly for about a year and a half. We probably played, if we didn't play 200 shows, we played close to 200 shows over a year and a half.
Damn.
And that ended up falling apart. They had some inner conflict in that band before I even got there, and and by the time we finished the last tour, I was in a position where my kids were struggling at home without me. They were very small, and I just said, man, I'll be happy to stay in this band, but I just can't do the long touring anymore. I had to go out and get a job, and I did, and I got a career job doing low voltage cabling installations for like fire alarm systems, burglar alarm systems, closed circuit television. I'd done that for probably 23 years total, but the last 10 years that I was in it was right after that last Alabama Thunder Pussy tour, and I just really couldn't do anything much more than that. I joined Trouble in 2012, and we released the Distortion Field album, which we did tour a little bit here and there, but those guys were kind of in the same boat as me. They just couldn't go out on lengthy tours, so we could do 2 weeks here, a weekend here, and that's kind of how my life was until the Exhorder opportunity presented itself once again. And at this point, my children were grown. I didn't need to be there for them every day, much less have them want me to even be around. They're older. They don't, they're like, Dad, go do it. And they were very supportive. They were like, this, I don't think they realized when they were little that I gave up so much for their sake, and really what I did, a lot of people tell me today, man, how come you're not rich and famous? How come, all these things that you've done and you have a job, what? And I was like, well, yeah, that's kind of the $1 billion question in my life. But there's your reason. I put everything on pause for the sake of my family, and I don't regret it. I've just been blessed that for whatever reason, whenever Exhorder breaks up, there's an increase in interest every time. So we're always bigger when we reform.
Yep.
And time around, we hired management. We got with Nuclear Blast and Monty Connor, who was our guy at Roadrunner. So we just feel like we made all the right decisions moving forward. And for whatever reason, like I said, the interest was there, so we took advantage of it. We just kind of been hitting it hard and going for the throat on it. I would love nothing more. I mean, who doesn't want to be, swimming in cash and have a fat checking account? I don't need it for glory purposes, but it would be nice after a life of living paycheck to paycheck to just not have to worry about anything. But the truth of the matter is, it's very difficult to do that the way that the music industry has evolved.
Yep.
So, that's why you see a lot of guys like me in multiple bands. It's like, back in the day, it was, well, I can only be in one because I have to focus on that and make that as big as possible. But the truth is, today, if you're not lucky enough to be in the handful of bands that can survive on that one band, then you got to kind of be a jack of all trades and do what you got to do.
It's really a good thing. And like with you, a true cult underground following that you're, and like you said, you're getting bigger and bigger every time Exhorder comes back, and then it brings the old projects back up. Like, for me, when I heard like, oh fuck, Exhorder's coming back, and they're like, oh, Floodgate, Alabama Thunder Pussy, fucking Trouble. And speaking of Trouble,
right,
you guys played one of the 70,000 tons of metal I was on. Do you remember what year that was?
That was 15.
Yep. You probably ran into me. I was a drunken mess the entire time.
So was I.
But I mean, like, for being such a huge influence in what I like to call the underground scene, even though, you're a very well-known vocalist, but it's still like, it's not major fucking arena shit, but to the underground crew, like the 70,000 tons crew, the international crew, you're an icon. A person that's, very well wanted for so many different kinds of bands. And yet, like you say, you still got to work the full-time job or to make ends meet and stuff, which, I never understood how these underground musicians are not compensated more. I mean, I get it with the music industry. It's shit. You don't get paid for shit, especially now with fucking digital downloads and streaming services. I mean, you have to be on the road. Yeah, you have to be on the road full time, and it sucks. I mean, like, I talked with Sammy down from Goat Whore a couple weeks ago on this, and everyone's struggling. All musicians, the ones I respect the most, they're working, fucking jobs to get by. And like you said, why aren't you rich and famous? I fucking wish you guys were. I mean, but it's especially now, it's such a tough time with COVID going on with no live shows. You have to, rely on merch sales and shit just to get that extra cash and to keep the fucking bands going. So what have you guys been doing to kind of like push your product with lack of touring?
First thing that I did was back around June, July, was I did not renew my contract with my merch company that we were going through. I felt like with me being unable to tour, that it was worth it to take a chance on just being the buyer, being the seller, the shipping department, all that stuff. Here's the thing: you can outsource your business to somebody else, and they may do the best job that they can. But to me, like, nobody's really ever going to care as much about me or my business as I'm going to. So
Exactly.
I've found that doing the merch on my own, I've got nobody to blame if my product's bad. So I make sure that I use the best quality product, because I really, it might cost me a little more and take away from my profit margin. But when people get their merch and they're like, oh, wow, this is really nice, then, there's word on the street. Well, go ahead and buy something from Exhorder. The quality's great. I try to get it to everyone in a timely manner. I'll personalize a little card and sign it, just as a thank you to people for giving a damn.
Right.
So I don't know. It to me, I've taken it and tried to make it as mom and pop as I can, and I've found that people really appreciate it. So you kind of have to be inventive and creative in the COVID pandemic, because we can't get out on tour. We've got not just band members, you've got crew members, you've got drivers, you've got the local crew at every venue that relies on a tour to be the mainstay of their income. It's really, I'm fortunate that we can sell something here, to help, just kind of bridge the gap between when this all started and hopefully an end coming soon. That'd be great. But, I'm just going forth as planned. I'm booking tours and, writing the album. We at one point had planned on recording a show to do as a live stream. And right before we were supposed to get together to start rehearsing for it, there was a spike in COVID, and everybody's like, hold on, man, I don't feel comfortable about traveling. So we put that on pause. And that's difficult for us to just say, well, we'll just push it back, because at the moment, there's only half the band lives in Louisiana, and within a few weeks, I'll be the only one living in Louisiana. So we really have to plan for us all to get together, and that's what we do when we tour. We always get together like a week before and just start hitting it really hard in the practice room and getting tour ready. So it's not like the old days when everyone lived within 10 miles of each other and we go to a practice room 2 or 3 times a week. It's just not that convenient anymore.
Yeah, I hear you on that. And the thing is too, like, I live in the Fargo-Moorhead. I'm on the border of Minnesota and North Dakota, and we still have fairly strict rules for our venues and stuff. But in South Dakota, there's no rules. They haven't done anything, and they've been throwing shows, which I get it. You have no rules, whatever. But the bands are getting shit for playing them, so you can't. It's a no-win situation. You don't play, people are upset. You play, people are upset. It's such a weird time for everyone right now, especially musicians, and a lot of people don't get that. I mean, I've been lucky enough to take the time to focus on doing this YouTube series, writing music. I'm also, teaching guitar lessons and stuff like that. So I'm lucky I have things to keep me sane. But I mean, for the common metalhead whose, goal is every weekend to go see another live band, I feel for them. But then they're also getting shit for going when they can go see a live band. I mean, what do we do? It's fucked up. Yeah,
it's weird how drastically different the approach to all of this is for just from state to state. Even within the states, you got a city here that feels one way about it, and then 30 miles down the road they're doing things differently. It's crazy, but I don't know. For me, I don't think that I've had it. I got sick on the tour we did with Overkill. Both buses were extremely sick, and it was right at the onset of this. So maybe we all had COVID. I don't know. Everybody has a different. It takes the life of some people, and some people never even realize they've had it. So who knows? But I do know this much: if it's something that if it makes people feel comfortable for me to wear a mask to the store, whether or not I feel like I need the mask, I'm going to wear the mask just to to help to not just to help people feel comfortable, but what if I'm Typhoid Mary over here and I'm a carrier and there's an old lady who's at risk and we're both in the produce section and I sneeze, exactly. And she gets it. I'd never forgive myself if I thought for a second that I was responsible for somebody's death because I just was too prideful to wear a mask.
That's the thing, and I'm not anti-mask. I'm not pro-mask. I just, like you, I'm going to wear it. If they ask me to wear it, I'm going to wear it, you know? And for my,
it doesn't hurt. So.
No. And my girlfriend got me a really sweet one with a big old pentagram on it. So, I mean, I like wearing it. It's fun. But,
yeah. It's, you know, to me, it's just not that big of a deal. You know, if I go somewhere and nobody's wearing the masks, then I won't wear it. You know, it's like, I'm not afraid for myself. Yeah. So, to me, it's kind of a courtesy thing in a way.
Exactly. And I think if everyone had that same viewpoint, I think people would get along a lot better, because you have so many people that are just so militant on each side, and it's just like, let's just try to get fucking through this. It sucks for everyone. No one's happy this is fucking happening. You know, I just want it to end.
I think 90% of society's problems are that people are either militant or just really, what's the word I'm looking for? Just a little too gung-ho about their personal beliefs. And there's nothing wrong with feeling strong and passionate about what you believe in, but I think it's kind of gotten in the way of relationships between people, for sure.
Oh, definitely, 100%. And like I said, I mean, if wearing the masks and staying home fucking keeps other people safe and hopefully lets this die down so people like you and me can get back out there and play again, I'll fucking do it, because that's all I fucking want.
Right, exactly. Yeah, it's strange, man. You know, they're shutting down small businesses left and right, you know, but, you know, there's freaking 25,000 people at the Super Bowl. You know? Walk into a restaurant, you better walk into that restaurant with a mask on, but if you're sitting down, it's okay, because COVID's only up here, not down here.
It's just, I'm beyond like trying to figure it out. Like I said, I'm just going to do what they tell me, just so I don't like confrontation with people. I fucking hate talking with people I don't know. So if I'm just going to wear the mask and fucking mind my own business, and I don't really go anymore either.
Hopefully time just sorts it all out.
Right? And speaking of playing shows, there was a video that popped up about a couple weeks ago. One of my buddies shared on Instagram. I think it was taken from like 2016 with you and Mike and Jimmy from Acid Bath doing a cover of The Blue.
Oh yeah.
I never knew, what was that show about? Because that caught my attention. Yeah. I'm a huge Acid Bath fan, so.
That was a fundraiser. I've known those guys for a long time. Before they were even Acid Bath, when they were called Golgotha, they used to open for Exhorder, and they were very, very helpful towards Floodgate in the early days when we were still called Penalty. They gave me as many opening slots at their shows as I wanted, and they were just so helpful and respectful. You know, being fans of Exhorder and then just being friends with them, they just were happy to help me. So, that friendship was forged a long time ago. Nice. Fast forward to the show you're talking about. That was actually a fundraiser to benefit flood victims in Louisiana. Okay. I think that may have been for, I can't remember which hurricane. We've had so many of them that came through here. And somebody called me with the idea of getting up and doing a couple of Acid Bath songs with however many of the Acid Bath guys were available at the time. And so as it turned out, I was like, well, you know, what about Dax? What does Dax want to do? And they're like, Dax is never going to say yes. He just doesn't want to do that anymore. So I said, well, I think it was Mike and Jimmy, and Sammy was out of town, and he messaged me later on like, I can't believe I fucking missed this thing, because he really wanted to be a part of it, you know. And to me, I'm a fan of the band, and they're my friends, and it's an honor, you know, that they're one of the legendary bands of all time, not just from Louisiana, but period, you know. So I said, look, let me reach out to Dax and see what he's got to say. So I sent him a message, and I said, word is that you boys are doing this. I said, are you interested in doing it? And he said, I'm not able to do it at this time. I don't remember verbatim what he said, but he wasn't going to do it. I said, well, they've, in lieu of you, they have reached out to me, and I'm not going to go anywhere near it without your blessing. And he messaged me back saying, I couldn't think of anyone else I'd rather be there. So perfect, great, no problem. So we went and did the blue and also cheap vodka.
Nice.
It's funny because, I mean, the people that were there, they all went nuts because everybody's just dying to see Acid Bath, and most of the people there I either knew or were, fans of both bands, whatever. But it's really incredible how much negative feedback I got from that.
Really?
People. Yeah, one guy came at me who was like, man, if I'd have been there, you'd have never finished that song. And I'm like, that's big talk.
Yeah.
But I said, let me, maybe this guy just doesn't understand. And so I went back and said, listen, my friend, this was done to raise money for people in need. We're helping our neighbors here in Louisiana, and they invited me, and Dax gave me a blessing.
Yeah.
What do you want, and then once he heard that, he wrote me back. He's like, man, I'm sorry. I really had a bad week. I'm like, it's okay, man. And to me, my first instinct was, man, what are you talking about? But as I've gotten older, I've tried to have a different approach with people like that. Like, maybe y'all just don't know, I mean, just recently somebody shared that video on social media, and there were people on there, oh, no Dax, no Acid Bath, like this just doesn't work for me. And there was a lot of negativity there. So I kind of just did the same thing. I made a comment saying, look, this was done for charity, y'all.
Right.
Don't worry. If it was my choice, I'd have been in the crowd with you guys watching Dax do it. But, the guy wasn't available. He didn't want to do it, or he couldn't do it. One of the two. I'm just here to help.
And
I think once people start seeing it from that mindset, they understand a little bit better. But I don't know. I've gotten the same thing with Trouble. The purists just can't accept, that there's not Eric Wagner in the band. And sometimes it takes. I've had some of them come up to me at shows going, man, I didn't want to like you with this band, but it's obvious you care about the band and you did a great job on the songs. It's like, I'm a fan. Why on earth would I shit all over one of my favorite band's legacies and one of the singers that I looked up to growing up? I mean, are you crazy? I don't know. People get very territorial about the things they love. That's true. Especially, and I can't say that I've never felt that way about a band that I loved when they've had a replacement, but as I've gotten older and been a replacement more than once, because I was a replacement in Alabama Thunder Pussy, and people are entitled to their favorite and they don't have to like what I do with it. All I ask is that if you haven't seen us live, just give me that one show, and I promise you, if you don't like it after that, well, then you're just never going to like my voice, and that's okay. I don't care.
And it's personal opinion, but the thing is, too, with the internet, everyone's behind a keyboard, everyone's fucking tough as shit, and we'll talk some shit. And you combine that with, I mean, me and my buddies will argue Van Halen versus Van Hagar. We've been having this argument for 15 plus years. Everyone has their favorites, but like you said, with Dax giving you his blessing, a lot of people don't know the backstory, and in their eyes, you're just trying to take over Acid Bath, which is fucking ridiculous, Like, I'm surprised people can't just put two and two together. One, like you said, being a fundraiser show, and two, it's just you guys are like, hey, let's get together and jam these tunes for fucking a good time for everyone, and people take it too fucking serious. I mean,
that's just it. I think sometimes people get mad when the lineup, the classic lineups that they fall in love with for a band, if those lineups aren't together anymore. I see it all the time. People are like, man, if the lineup for Trouble from this album would just get back together, it'd be perfect. But it's like, you don't know what's going on behind closed doors with any of these bands and the relationships, my own bands, it's a fragile thing. And to have a band like the Rolling Stones that rolled in these lineups for so many years, Rush, I mean, three guys that got along well enough for the better part of 30, 40 years.
Right.
It's the exception to the rule to have these lineups stay intact. So the way I see it is, if your band that you love is out there able to keep doing it and, get the artistic satisfaction that we all desire and crave, as well as try to make a freaking living at it, why is it so hard to agree to just let that happen, even if you don't want to support it? But it's funny, some people really get volatile about it, man, and angry.
They get fucking
I don't know.
pissed, man.
It's like wrestling. It's like pro wrestling,
Well, I mean, it's great that people are passionate, because I'm also a very passionate, fan of music. I mean, obviously no one can replace King Diamond if that ever happened, and I'd be fucking irritated if someone tried. But, like you said, you don't know the behind the scenes stories. I mean, being in band since I was 13 and I'm 40 now, some of my best friends, we've had damn near knockout, drag out fights and have broken up a band because of something fucking stupid. And then a year or 2 years later, we're best friends again. But sometimes you just can't work with people. You get fucking pissed, you move on, or, you just don't have the feeling for it anymore. I mean, that's happened for me. Like, I was filling in for a band, and it was just, it's not for me anymore. I don't want to play, this style of music. I want to do something different. Then they're, pissed. Well, fucking good luck. It's like, well, sorry, would you rather have me be uninterested on stage and, projecting that to the fans and whatnot? Or would you have me just move on?
Exactly. It's funny. One thing that I've learned over the years is that just because something comes to an unceremonious end doesn't mean it has to be taken personally.
Yep.
I've got a lot of people that I've done business with over the years where the business side of it ended in a not so pleasant way, but I've still remained friends with them because they've made, we've made it clear to each other this is not a personal thing. And at the same time, there's relationships I've had for many, many years that have ended, and if we never see each other again, we'll both sides will be happy. It's so hard to find that chemistry between a group of people that can find not necessarily even friendship or love for each other, but just the ability to work together. When I had jobs throughout my career, my life, I would have rather work with somebody that I didn't like, that was a good worker, reliable, that I knew I could work well with and trust. And if we didn't get along personally, that was fine because we're working. That's, yeah. I'm not here for the party. I'm here to make money and to get a job done. And I don't know. I think sometimes when you have a friendship with somebody and you're working with them and not everybody's pulling their weight or doing their part, that creates resentment too. So,
well,
I don't know.
It's harder to tell a friend that they're doing something you don't enjoy, whether it be work or especially in music. I mean, if you have a friend that you've been, known for years and you're in a band together and they come to you with a fucking riff that you're just like, ugh, but you're like, hey, it's great. And then, move forward with a song you're not happy with. It doesn't you don't accomplish the product you're looking for. So, I mean, I get that aspect of it 100%.
Yeah, no doubt. It's crazy. It's one of the, it's probably the most unique places in my lifetime throughout, between school, jobs, marriage, relationships, family, all this stuff. It is the most unique dynamic of relationships is the music industry, and trying to find that group of people that's not just people that can get along with each other, but work well together and have a chemistry together. That's why you see such a revolving door, and then there's, the people that can't afford to beat it out on the road and not make money, like I did. I had to bail out for a decade because I had to raise a family.
Yeah. I mean, and it's cool that you can, admit that not everything is going to work when it comes to like music. Like everyone, you want everything just to be perfect when you find that group of people like, hey, I finally found a guitarist, drummer, fucking bass player, vocalist. This is going to work. And then, like you said, the chemistry, sometimes it's just not there and you have to move on. And it sucks. But music, when it comes down to it, if you're not just doing it for, something to do to pass the time, it is a business. I mean, that's what it comes down to.
And here's another thing to look at. You got a virtuoso player here that is better than everybody, and they're a difficult person to get along with and unreliable, or they have addiction problems. And then you got someone over here that's not quite the virtuoso, but plays well enough to get the job done and is easier and cooler than the other side of the pillow.
Yep.
Which one do you want in your band?
Exactly. I mean, some people will sacrifice and stick with the asshole virtuoso, but hopefully you choose the guy who's going to get the fucking job done. And that's what it should be. I mean, it's a tough choice, but you got to do it. I mean, for the greater good of the band. So I have one more question for you before we take off here. Now, in looking back at your history and your past of your accomplishments in all your bands, if you were to give advice to either your 16-year-old self or someone in the same shoes, like a younger person trying to get their name out there in the music business, what advice would you give them to kind of push them, steer away from this, or kind of focus on this kind of stuff? What advice would you give, pretty much?
Forget about it and go to law school. That's what I'd have probably told myself. I mean, I could hardly discourage somebody from chasing their dream. The dream of being a successful musician or rock star or whatever, however you want to look at it, recording artist, there's a very, very small success rate, ratio wise, to people that are trying to people that actually get the opportunity. And I've kicked myself many times for, God, I just can't believe I've done this to myself my whole life. And I've had the worst luck of anyone I know with this and that. And then I've had someone tell me, worst luck, you're sitting here complaining because you signed 2 or 3 not so good record deals. Do you know how many of your friends would kill to just sign one shitty record deal? It's like, that's an interesting spin on it. I never, thought about it that way. And sometimes we get caught up in, woe is me, poor me. But I've had a pretty blessed life when it comes to my music career, and I'm not finished. But if it all ended now and this is all I ever have from it, well then I guess I should consider myself lucky. Yeah.
I mean, you've done so many great things, so many memorable things. Like I said, for a person like me who grew up in Moorhead, Minnesota, who, heard the first Exhorder album in 1993 as a 13-year-old kid, you've made an impact for, like I said, just even one person. So it's cool that you've, internationally known for what you've done. I'd say you've accomplished a lot, and you should be obviously very proud of what you've done. But like, I get it. There's also the I could have done things better thing. And we all have that as musicians, as people in general. So, I mean, it happens. I get it.
It's usually when it's time to pay this note or the utilities. Like, what have I done to myself? But, there's days where I'm like, oh, wow, did we really make that much money this month? So it depends. And that's one of the perils of owning your own business too, is, it's feast or famine. It's just like sales, I guess.
Yeah, exactly. 100%. Kyle, I just want to thank you so much. It was great talking to you, and thank you for putting up with the bullshit we had to deal with to get this interview done today. It was kind of a...
No, my pleasure, man.
I'm
It really was.
really excited and hoping to see you guys out on the road soon. And on that note, keep this in mind. A Exhorder Crowbar Goat Whore tour would be pretty awesome. So
that would be fun and probably about as dangerous of a tour package as could be.
Exactly.
Not everybody in those groups are wild children, but a lot of these guys. I've toured with Crowbar before with Trouble, and we really had a great time. It was really family oriented, and it just kind of felt like one of the things that just had to be, but I can't say that there weren't nights where me and Kirk are sitting in a bar room cutting up a lot later than we should have been. So
it happens on the road. That's just life. But like I said, man, thank you for what you've done in music. Thank you for taking the time to talk to me. I hope to see you soon on the road, and just be safe out there. All right, man?
Yeah, likewise. Thanks a bunch. Appreciate it.
I'll talk to you later, brother. Thank you. You gotta stop spending your money on ridiculous shit. I have no idea what you're talking about. I'd like to thank Kyle Thomas for taking the time to talk to me today. Just a really cool, down-to-earth guy with such an amazing history of music from, like I said, 1990 when Slaughter of the Vatican came out. I heard it in 93, then I heard Floodgate in 94, 95, whenever that was, and Alabama Thunder Pussy, Trouble, all that cool stuff. So it's really awesome to hear like his take on all that stuff and just have a cool fucking chat with him. Real down-to-earth guy, and I appreciate his time. Thank you, Kyle. I hope to see you on the road soon with Exhorder here this year. If not this year, maybe next year. But cheers, I appreciate you, brother. Moving on to the end of the show, folks, we have music from Thrallfrost. This is a black metal band from Fargo. I've been lucky enough to catch them a couple times. We played with them a few times. Real cool fucking dudes. Just fucking brutal black metal. They have a split with Demi-Fiend that's out now, so find it on their Facebook, their Bandcamp, wherever. This is Thrallfrost with His Eyes on the Raven. As always, if you like the show, please share it. If you'd like to get your band on the show, contact me through Facebook, Instagram, through YouTube. I'd love to feature your band, all extreme metal, from anywhere in the world. And as always, support the underground.